Hello and welcome to another edition of Ask Guillem. Let me start updating you with the situation in Spain regarding going back to play football this week. The clubs, the Spanish clubs, are going to test their players and coaching staff, and that's the first step towards training, not just individually, which obviously is the first step, then in little groups, and finally collectively before the first game, which it is calculated, if things go normal, about mid June, 13th, 14th of June. That's the idea. Things that could stop it, well, basically it won't be a positive up till the point of the beginning of the competition, because in the protocol that the government, the federation and La Liga have agreed on, if there is one positive, there is an isolation for that player or that member of the coaching staff, and then everybody else gets tested. Similar situation that has happened in Germany, where in the first and second division, in the first tests, similar to the ones that Spain are going to take place this week, they found 10 positives. The idea is to isolate those players and or members of the coaching staff, and then move on into the next phase when it's possible. So there is not so much problem with that. Things that the Spanish players are not so happy about, the fact that perhaps it's been suggested by La Liga that perhaps they should actually be behind closed doors, isolated in individual rooms for about 5 or 6 weeks, that the rest of the competition will take place, said between mid-June until the end of July. They don't want to be 5 weeks isolated at the moment. Obviously, there is another big thing, and nobody seems to have the solution or an answer for what happens if during the competition a player tests positive and the stats suggest that maybe one or two would, and there's no answer from anyone. That will be the moment where the fear of the players, if you like, will clash with the intention of La Liga to continue until the end. The necessity of it is obvious. La Liga wants to play because they will lose about 900 million euros. That money that won't come if this season doesn't finish. That also is important because 50 million a year has been agreed that will go from La Liga, that money that comes from television, to either the federation, the Spanish federation, or other federations with Olympic or non-Olympic sports. So La Liga has become the engine of the rest of the of Spanish sports, if you like. That has been agreed with the federation, with the government. So that money has to come in as well to fulfill that promise. There is 180,000 people that live on football directly or indirectly. A lot of reasons for it to come back, and La Liga wants to insist on trying until it is impossible to do so. They are hopeful that they can go to the end. The trade union of the players have got their doubts. But as I said, I think it's important that La Liga tries to finish, because we've seen what's happened with the Dutch government and the Spanish government and the French government. They've decided to stop. The problem is that the difficulties that you find now to actually restart the domestic competition, you will find them before a vaccine arrives. Exactly the same. But at the same time, with the tests that the players will have before the competition restarts, makes them some of the safest and healthiest people in the country, because they will be tested regularly. And as I said, if they eventually accept to be isolated, it makes any possibility of catching the virus almost very, very unlikely anyway. So that's what La Liga says. That's what the players are more or less accepting, but it's got its difficulties. Anyway, I'm going to go through some of the questions that you put forward, starting with Richie Parral. It says, any Chelsea updates been linked this week with Koulibaly? Basically, any link like with Koulibaly of Napoli, the centre-back, or any other big player will face the impossibility of, number one, raising the money, and number two, spending that kind of money that's necessary to get a player like this. because nobody wants to make a huge investment into a player. That's quite clearly, and neither PSG, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, nobody wants to put 100 million on a player. That's more. 100 plus is what Koulibaly will cost. So forget about that. Chelsea have got a priority, of course. Fullback, number one. Number two, quite clearly they want a striker. That will be the biggest thing, to get a striker. How will the market work? I've been explaining it for a month now. Swap deals, loan deals, free agents will be a priority for everyone. And those swaps will be interesting because it will mean putting, for those players, a money tag that obviously both clubs will have to agree on. And that will be one of the difficulties. Also, that swap will incur in difficulties with the contracts. The contracts are not exactly the same from one player to the other. And the players will want not only the same contract, and many won't move because they want to keep the same contract and they think that in other places they may not get the same kind of money. But also they want to improve if they want to move. We all want to do that, don't we, if we change our jobs. So those are the difficulties that the market will face. So the likes of Koulibaly, I don't think it can happen, not this summer. Derwo Musix says, as a Belgium and Los Blancos fan, Real Madrid, I'd love to see De Bruyne at Real Madrid. Any chance of the future? Zero chances. You can never say zero chances. Certainly, the words of De Bruyne, his own words, in which he said, if of course Manchester City have got a ban for 2 years, and after appealing that doesn't move, it will be difficult for him, who's 28, to actually stay for a couple of years with a club that won stay in Europe for those years. The problem is who's going to take him? How? The same situation. Who's going to invest the money that is necessary for De Bruyne to move? One thing is his wish, and his representatives have insisted after his words that he doesn't want to move straight away. Of course he doesn't, because we still don't know what's going to happen with City. But anyway, if he wanted to move the next summer, it's going to be very, very difficult. So if he moves, then I'm sure, or if the possibility of moving is there, say that the market stabilizes itself in 2 or 3 years, or when he's 31, there will be, of course, a fight for his signature. But right now, why speculate about something that could happen in a couple of years' time? Big Jimmy says, how do you think the COVID-19 virus will hit the transfer market? Will transfer fees be a lot less now teams have less money? I've been discussing this. So thanks, James Howson, his name is. Thank you, James, for that question, because it's so important. I know that rumors is something that you're all attracted to, but the reality of it is that wherever you go, people, whoever you ask, they tell you exactly the same. We just don't know how much money we're going to have, because right now, clubs don't even know if the season is going to finish. There will be a difference. If the season gets finished, they will get all the television money that they expected. They will lose on some of the money related to match days, to games taking place in their own stadiums. So there will be an absence of money that they were counting on, which means that they won't actually be able to spend in the market as per usual. So we explain a lot of that. Nani Dean says, null and void this season. That will be ideal, he thinks. Then use the 2.5 billion prize fund. I imagine you're talking about 2.5 billion in Europe, I imagine. And make it into an emergency welfare fund to distribute throughout the whole of football, grassroots, non-league, league, ladies and youth, to ensure everyone survives the next 12 months. Very optimistic. I say it impossible. Nobody will make that kind of effort for anybody. Football are helping. The big clubs are helping. Other clubs, the Premier League, will continue paying to the pyramid of English football the money that has been promised. I don't think it's going to be much more than what they promised, but in any case, it's money that is well received by other clubs. Certainly not enough to overcome the deficit. The money is not going to come to the clubs in the next few months. So Perhaps they will have to make a bigger effort, the Premier League, La Liga, Liga, Serie A, for the rest of football. That is certainly something that I'm sure they'll want to do. But what's interesting is to hear the words from, say, the president of the German Federation talking about if this is a time for everyone in football to change or to think of changing. That is, he was complaining about things like commissions, transfers, the excess of wages as well. Can we change that? Can we cap the wages? It's a discussion that keeps cropping up every now and again. It will be a way for football to be more sustainable and for crises like this to affect them less. It won't happen because it needs the leadership of the UEFA, of FIFA, both of them, to force governments to change laws that stops wage caps taking place, for instance. There is not an appetite for it right now. There is an appetite, though, I think, at the top of the game to think about how football works and how it has become such a business in which agents and players lead, if you like, and clubs have lost authority to do the things that will balance the books and will look after a sustainability that is right now is not possible. Most of the budgets of the clubs, 50% plus, in the case of Barcelona, 75% of the money that comes in goes into wages of players. There has to be a way where the players still get what they think they deserve, but clubs can be, as I said, have got more possibility of using that money for other things. There is a lot of things that can be changed, more accountability for agents that take so much money out of the game, certainly. Not every agent is bad and agents are necessary, but a lot of agents earn a lot for not doing too much. How can you control that? And those are things that after a time of crisis, you will expect people, big brains of football to actually think about. And one big one for me is the big divide that is between clubs and fans, how fans have got not a say in anything that's happening. How in 2024, when the calendar will change, the football calendar, and a lot of the fights, the infighting that's taking place is because in 2024 everybody's got to get together to put new dates and new contracts with television for the following calendars, and there is the talk of European leagues and doing things in a different way, perhaps having even more games for the national side, all that will redefine football as we understand it. And let's see the consequences of coronavirus as well in the middle of all that. But there is no fans' voices anywhere to be heard while all that gets taking place. It's a business at the top end, and that has lost the community sense that football should have. And an example of it, for instance, is what Real Sociedad and Athletic Bilbao have decided to do just today. They asked for the federation to allow them to play the cup final with fans. They said, and this is the kind of community sense that I'm talking about from clubs, they're saying we got to the final of the cup with them, thanks to them as much as to the players, so we want to play with them. And the federation would have said, but that means you may miss on the possibility of one of you to go into the Europa League. They say they don't mind, because what they want is a final between both Basque clubs with the fans. Okay, the federation said it has to be before 2020, the end of 2021. We will see if it's possible, because we need to have a vaccine before we actually can get all together into a stadium. But those kinds of gestures is what we've seen less and less of. Fans have been forgotten. So, rant over. Axman Dush Bark says Haaland and Sancho are both fans of Fran Lampard. Any chance of either of them coming to the bridge? As I said, Haaland and Sancho, big transfers. I know that obviously Chelsea has looked into the possibility of Sancho. So has Manchester United, and Sancho is playing with the idea of either staying or going. But it needs a huge investment to take Sancho away from Borussia Dortmund right now. We will see if that money is available. If anybody's got it, according to all the agents I've spoken to, will be Chelsea or Manchester United or Manchester City. But if Manchester City don't have European football, leaves Manchester United and Chelsea. I've spoken to Chelsea too in terms of a couple of suggestions of players that have been mentioned related to them, and they said We just don't want to make investments, big investments. Leaves then Manchester United, who also saying, forget about players that cost 100 million plus. That would be Sancho. So, as I say, very, very unlikely that those things take place. Baby Boy Sergio says, why there is such a mess in Barcelona? Do you think the current board can turn things around, or we just need to suffer one more year before the elections? It will be elections in 2021, the summer 2021, and that's where we will change things. Right now for Barcelona and the board in Barcelona is to make sure that they don't have losses. They have to present accounts, the board, before leaving, with no big losses, because otherwise the directors themselves will be responsible for it. Obviously, none of the directors want that to happen. Meanwhile, they want to make sure that they bring as much money as they will use to get players. So again, a lot of swaps, a lot of sales, if they can manage. But who's gonna put the money up front for certain players that they're happy to sell? Barcelona, everybody's for sale apart from Messi, Luis Suarez, Ter Stegen, and De Jong. Everybody else is for sale. But for instance, Arthur has been linked to clubs he doesn't want to leave at all. That is the other problem. If they want to be pushed out, they want to go to a club that they're happy with. Rakitic is another one that has been suggested that he may leave. He wants to go to Sevilla, but Sevilla are going to leave it to the last second, because right now they don't know where they're going to get the money to pay for his wages, or for a transfer fee that Barcelona may require, perhaps a swap with a player. Those things are the kind of things that have been discussed. T-Voice K says, what is Pochettino's dream job? We'll have to ask him, but I tell you what he'd like to do now. I think he would like to go to a top club in Europe, but there are no top clubs available. That could be PSG, Bayern Munich, Manchester United, Real Madrid. They're not available. So the plan has been, until the big appearance of Newcastle, to stay put and wait for that opportunity to rise. I know, and we all know, that Pochettino has become the number one target for Newcastle. There's no doubt about that. What will I do in his position? Perhaps what he's doing now, just listening. If anybody calls, let's see what this project of Newcastle is about. Right now, everybody expects to go through. So Saudi Arabia and the fund coming from Saudi Arabia will be in place to actually make all the changes they want to do. What do they want to do? They want to do another city, but not in 10 years. They want to do it much, much quicker. They will have to deal with financial fair play, something they want to deal with. Perhaps right now, in my eyes, it would be, in a way, better to have a coach like Rafa Benitez that could put the foundations of the club for somebody like Pochettino, who can give it then with everything in place, with a club that would have changed their mentality and perhaps being closer to Europe, to give to put them in the next step. Maybe that's an idea. In any case, what I know for sure is that Pochettino, Rafa Benitez, and Allegri are the three names on the table for Newcastle. They want to convince one of them, or Nagelsmann, of course. Ambitious as they are, they want one of those four, actually, Nagelsmann as well. We will see. I believe Rafa Benitez hasn't got a call yet. I know that Pochettino is aware of the interest, very aware of the interest, even before, Sky Sports News came out with a story that he's the number one target. He's aware of the story. He's aware of the interest. That's as far as I would say. And in the case of Allegri, ambitious as well, but of course without experience in the Premier League. And Nagelsmann, I think he's very happy at the moment in Germany with a club that are fighting for the title and will fight for the title in the next few years. So I'm not sure he's in a rush to go anywhere else either. That's the situation that I know of at Newcastle. Igita Scorpion says, could you ever see the big three clubs from Portugal joining La Liga clubs to form an Iberian Super League to match the TV money of England? I see no interest from anywhere really for that to happen. It's an interesting proposition, and one that may work better, say, between Belgium and Holland, perhaps Scotland, but one that La Liga has no interest in pursuing right now. They're happy with the money that's coming in. They were thinking that there were bigger contracts ahead of them. Let's see with the situation now. But in any case, right now it's not something that they are pursuing. But it's an interesting idea. Finally, Benedict MP says, who do you think is definitely going to leave Barcelona this summer? Any chance Coutinho is coming back under Setien? Let's deal on Coutinho because we spoke more or less about the situation in Barcelona. And Coutinho, we know Leicester were after him, but they're going to play cool until it is the time to put the money on the table. And money for a loan deal. That's what they will go for. With the now we're going to see loans for 2 or 3 years even, and then with a obligation to pay or an agreement to a money to pay if they want to keep him. We will see what format that has because Leicester, apart from showing interest, that's it. They haven't done anything else at the moment. And yes, Barcelona are considering the possibility of keeping Coutinho, but they like him to go to get money for him, certainly, so they can use it for somebody else, but to reduce the amount of money spent on wages. So all in all, is one that you'll hear a lot from, and you think, oh, something is going on. Not always. Both things are related. I think the interest from Barcelona to sell Coutinho means that the Catalan papers especially got free rein to tell a lot of Coutinho stories, to keep him in the market, to keep him hot. So finally somebody comes for him. But right now, even the possibility of staying is one that it is being considered. Remember that the market, we don't know when it's going to open because we don't know when the seasons are going to be finished. Perhaps from the 1st of August, perhaps after the European competitions get played, if they get played in August, perhaps the 1st of September. We don't know how long the market are going to go on for, but I think FIFA are even considering the possibility of leaving it open until the end of the year. Let's see how that works. So meanwhile, everybody's got to show interest, but not too much if you want to buy, and make sure that everybody knows that which players you want to sell. And I think in every case, it's most of the players that are say at a second level, not the big guys, but everybody else second level is for sale if anybody wants to move money that way. And everybody's looking at the Premier League for the solution for the market to have some kind of money availability. Anyway, that's it for now. There'll be more next week, and for now, I'll see you around. See you on Twitter. See you in my podcast, the Pure Football Podcast. If anybody is interested in hearing in-depth conversation on football with some of the biggest stars you can think of. See you later. Bye.